I think the reason that maybe you're feeling some animosity from the community is because people like yourselves have already come into this community and taken so much away from it, especially from the people of color. Because as we know, the housing crisis disproportionately affected people of color, Latinos, and African American people. And your presence here is going to further destabilize the school system. I'm sure you know that. That's a fact. And you say you're here to help people, but I don't know what you're here doing. I'm sure that you know what you're here doing. But you know that when you take 600, 800 students out of the school district, that means that there are going to be more combination classes. That means that there are less teachers. That means that the classes in the district, who, by the way, also serve students of color or low-income students, will have less opportunity to advance. So your presence here is not helping the district. Your presence here hurts the district. And I think you have to admit that to yourself. If you're here to assuage your past sins in the financial industry, you're not doing a good job of it because your presence here harms the students that are here, harms the teachers that are here. Now, if you think that you have an idea that we don't have, you're wrong. What you have is more resources. The reason you can work for free is you're rich. You don't work for free because you're nice. You work for free because you're rich, and we aren't. And so, what I want to make clear to you, I want you to understand that and admit to yourself at some point that you're here doing harm to the community, doing harm to the public school district. I'm sure you have a great school. But it's not because you have new ideas, it's because you have more resources. And if we had the kind of resources you have, you wouldn't have a chance here because the school district would have the funding that you have. So some of the money that you were able to, maybe not you, and I don't want to be, I don't want to go on and on about things that aren't true, but if you have connections in the financial industry, you have connections to capital that you can use to start your school. We don't have those resources. So my question is, again, and I'm going to repeat what the person in the back says, what is your story for your turnaround where instead of making money for your own personal gain, you decided to help low-income students of color? That's my question.
My story. Sure. I believe in the American dream because I'm a product of it. I believe that people should have a right to speak without being interrupted. My father grew up with nothing in Brooklyn, New York. He went to New York City public schools. He served in the Army. He went to Brooklyn College on the GI Bill. He sold insurance door to door. And I got to go, I'm a graduate of public schools. I got to go to an Ivy League college. I got to have a career on Wall Street. And I got to retire so that I could give back. And my kids have every opportunity. My kids get internships. My kids can go to whatever school they want. And it just seems really unfair to me that every kid doesn't have that. So you can question my motives or whatever, but I'm here to give everyone the choice that my kids have, because I don't think it's fair. Now, I'm not an enemy of the public school system. I think you run a terrific school here. I just believe in parent choice. I know that if I don't like the school that my kids are going to, because I might be rich, I have a choice and I can send them somewhere else. If you don't like the school your kids are going to, maybe you don't have that choice. As Val Cuevas said, the state has created a mechanism for parents to have choice. I didn't invent the law. The state said that in the public school system, there are districts and there are charters. We've created a public school. We don't make any money off of it. We're a public school. We're not selective. And we're here because we believe that parents want choice. What evidence of that is there? We are oversubscribed. We have 600 families coming. We could easily have another 600. In Vallejo, we have 300 places, we have 600 applicants. Parents are choosing. They may not choose what you choose, but you have to respect their choice as well.
So, it's a really quick follow-up question. I just want to say...
There's only about a half hour left. Now, I'm happy to stay all night, but I think you should respect... Well, why don't you respect the other people and let them speak as well?
So my follow-up question is, the reason that the state created the mechanism for you to have your charter school is because the Charter School Foundation has lobbyists and lawyers that can write law to certainly get it passed through the propagation system. So it isn't quite as simple as you've made it sound, and I'm sure you agree with me. Thank you.
Mr. Bell. This question's for you, Mr. Bell. One, do you have a degree in education? And two, is your board elected? And do your board members live in our community?
So most of my staff lives in Richmond or in the nearby community. I heard your question. Most of my staff lives in the community. I live in San Francisco, but I work here every day. It's a nice place. And our board, one of our board members lives in Vallejo. The rest of our board members live in San Francisco, but we have a mixture of educators on the board. We have Dr. Lopez is
You can read the full bios. I think to the point of your question, they don't live in Richmond, but they do have education backgrounds in some cases. In other cases, they are philanthropically minded donors. Just for the sake of it.
Are they publicly elected?
They are not publicly elected.
Okay. And Mr. Beller, do you have a degree in education?
No, I have a degree in history.
Thank you.
Okay, this might be a question two-part, but more directed towards the board. Since this property is not designated as a surplus property, then presumably the Naylor Act, what is it, Section 17, 4 by 4.5, isn't applicable. What is the regulatory regime that would be overseeing this sale?
So I'm going to let Clark answer that question. He actually this keeps going up.
Can everyone hear me?
No. You're by the speaker. That's why.
That's why. So my name is Ed Sklar. I'm the legal counsel for the school district. And I think the question that you're asking is why isn't this being brought under the surplus property?
Well, no, I know that's not designated as a surplus property. So I'm saying, what is the operating regulatory regime for this sale in terms of the valuation and how it could be disposed in the event that Caliber wanted to be off of the property?
Right, so we're going to create or try and finalize a contract that will be presented to the public when it's finalized. And this is being brought under the Proposition 39 statutory scheme, which contemplates that a district may reach, in lieu of straight Prop 39 regulations, may reach an alternative agreement between the district and a charter school in regard to fulfilling the Prop 39 obligations.
And then the second part of that is public schools have to be constructed under the Field Act rather than the Uniform Building Code. In this situation, would the Field Act apply?
If it is a school, if it is a charter school, then they are not obligated to build to the Field Act. They are obligated to build to the state building code standards.
Okay, but
they could build to the Field Act, but they're obligated to build to the state.
Okay, so then I guess the next question would be directed at you. Do you intend to build it under the Field Act regulatory regime and to those standards?
So I'm not an architect. As I said, we haven't hired the architect. We're going to comply with all relevant codes, whether it's the state education code or the county code, to build a safe building.
Right. That's actually not the question.
Yeah, I just don't know the answer. I'm not an architect, but you're welcome to participate, as is everyone.
Well, I'm just asking more for the purpose of charter schools have a kind of a separate carve out. The UBC or whatever applies. They don't, and that's partially that's a waiver that was designed because the charters operated out of portables predominantly, and applying the Field Act portables would be probably not a good idea for a lot of reasons. But since this is going to be a 1,200-seater that's sitting right on the Hayward Fault, the Field Act was contemplated to protect defenseless children. And so I think that we want a reassurance that the Field Act would absolutely apply to whatever retrofit or building would take place on that property.
You know, we're going to be working in this site, so we don't want it to fall down either, as all of our children. But as I said, I can't answer your question because I'm an architect. I don't even know what the Field Act says. But I assure you we will comply with all relevant codes to build a safe school.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Jones. I teach 3rd grade at Lake Elementary School. I'm a member of the United Teachers of Richmond. And I was wondering if all the United Teachers of Richmond who are sitting can stand, and all the ones who are standing can raise their hand. So if you're a retired teacher or current teacher, United Teachers of Richmond, stand. I was also wondering if all SEIU Local 1 can stand or raise their hand. Any other union members who are here can raise their hand. Anyone married to a union member can raise their hand. Anyone who has a child who's a member of a union, can you please raise your hand? Okay, thank you. A question and a comment. My question is, how will you ensure that union labor is used to work on the Adams building? How will you ensure that? And then, so I guess there would have to be some kind of retrofitting and building. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Up at Hilltop Mall, there was a charter school. I don't know if it was Caliber or Aspire or Summit. Was it Aspire? And the Carpenters Union, I don't know if you know, had a picket line up. So I hope nobody crossed it. Because they were flying in scab labor from Nevada. And we're not hiring local members of the Carpenters Union. So those jobs didn't go to Richmond, El Cerrito Carpenters. They went to Nevada ununionized carpenters. So that's my question. I have a comment. Even though California Teachers Association might have some kind of, I don't know, rapprochement or friendly deal, live and let live with the charters, the United Teachers of Richmond will fight you, and that's what we plan on doing. We are not going to allow the further expansion of charter schools in the district. My second question, and I'll be quiet. I noticed there's a lot of school board members here, but the ones that ran up to defend you were Cuevas and Block. And I'm wondering, and my question to them is, did any of them take Charter School Association money for their school board campaign? And I'll sit down.
So I'd like to set the record straight. Wait a second. No, you get to make whatever judgments about somebody you've never met. That's your question. The question is first, because you're making about another community member, is no. I've never taken $1 in my direct campaign account from the Charter Schools Association. Look it up. This is Richmond. I live in Richmond. So I can't speak for the other board members. I can build I'm here to speak as a person with dignity, with you as a person with dignity. I'd like to meet every one of you. And I'd like for you to walk in these shoes and try to solve these problems. And we can do it together. But we can't do it by spreading falsehoods. Ma'am, I have never taken $1 from the Charter Schools Association. I want to make that clear. Okay? So here's the issue. The question was, have I ever taken? The answer is no. And you have no idea how much I decided that I would not, because you know why? This isn't about charters to me. This is about representing all our schools and our students and our families fairly. If you want to hold a grudge and wage a war with the charters, ma'am, that's what the United States is about. Feel free. But I'm here to solve problems for all our families and our schools. And that's what I want to do. And good, reasonable people, the history of this country is about doing that. And we can do that. But the point is I want to make it clear, because it will be in somebody else's political benefit to say that I have, and the reality is I haven't. And if you really want to come question and ask me how I made that decision, my door is always open, and I welcome everybody. Thank you.
And also, there were people from charter schools who supported me, but they did not donate. I did not take a dime from charter schools. And as far as, has anybody here ever, have you all lived mistake-free lives? I'm sorry, I didn't know this was Richmond. Okay, so, but why? I said El Cerrito and you said you're Richmond. I hope we can get past that. I hope we can get past that.
What was the question about union workers?
as I said, we haven't hired an architect, we haven't hired a project manager, and we'll figure out what we're going to do.
No, actually, you can guarantee that you will hire union labor.
No, we're not going to guarantee anything.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I'm a Mira Vista parent, and I live in this community. I have a question more regarding kind of logistics, which is how walkable is Adams' site to the people, to the families that you serve? So that's the first part. It's a two-part question. The second part of it is that a couple years ago, the city of Richmond released a general plan that basically had policy regarding new school siting. So I'm just going to read this really briefly, which it said, work closely with West Contra Costa County School District and other educational providers on location of public school facilities in order to locate schools so that the number of students who can walk to school safely is maximized. The second one is locate elementary schools near the center of their attendance areas. Third one, develop permanent school facilities having a student capacity scaled to accommodate the long-range student load of their attendance districts. And the last one, which is develop school sites of sufficient size to accommodate all school and recreational facilities without interference with adjoining residential uses. So my question is, how do you see what's being proposed at the Adams site fitting into Richmond's long-term plan?
So, as we've said, we view ourselves as a school for the entire Richmond community, and if you wanted to look at a map of where our family is, they're from pretty much every neighborhood. So if City Hall were available, we'd be happy to locate our school there, because that would be at the epicenter. As we've said before, there was one school building that the district had available that wouldn't have involved displacing hundreds of other kids, and that was the Adams site, which has been vacant since 2009. We canvassed all our families before going ahead with discussions with the district, and most of our families drive to school now. There is no location which would be walkable for most of our families, so that's nice in theory but not nice in practice. And virtually all of our families were overwhelmingly in favor of coming to the Adams campus.
And the second part of that, how does it fit into Richmond's bigger plan? I guess as far as how the school district is working with Richmond.
So we are committed to neighborhood schools with regard to our district schools. And recently our board did just approve our facilities master plan, which I do believe is consistent with what the city of Richmond goals for public schools.
But then what is the impact on traffic for all the people that are surrounding that are here? I mean, it's a huge traffic impact, neighborly impact, environmental impact.
So as Mr. Beller did indicate, so he did say that he would be reviewing the traffic impacts and working with the community with regard to those impacts, and I think that's a commitment from him.
Yeah, just to be clear, it doesn't have to be a commitment for me, it's the law. The county will decide ultimately what the use is of the site, and the county will require a CEQA process. We're not asking for a waiver. That will include an independent third-party traffic consultant who will dictate traffic flows and patterns, but our intention is not to impose an undue burden on the community. The school did have roughly 1,200 kids at its peak, middle schoolers, and so we will follow, and the community will be part of that. We will follow what the traffic experts and the environmental experts and what the county planning department ultimately decides, with voice from all of you.
I would say with all of the promises of commitment to the community, that starts early in the process, not middle, not toward the end, opposite of this meeting in a lot of ways. I have a lot of questions. One, you offered a map of where all of your students come from. I would love to see a copy of that. How can I get that?
Why don't you just take my card and send me an email, and I'll be happy to send it to you.
Does it break it down numbers? Like, not just you have one child that lives in this area, but does it break it down numbers of your entire school? I would like to see that, so it's not just...
I'm not sure. Why don't you just send me an email with what you're asking for?
Okay, we all want to know. I think everybody wants to know, so you could provide that map somehow to the entire community.
We'll post it on our website.
Or actually, okay. And I'm baffled. I'm a public school teacher for 15 years. If I could just get a straight answer, you guys don't offer any busing at all to your students? Okay.
The government doesn't give us any
So
funding for this.
I hear that. I just want to speak educator to educator. I would, on the base, I hope all of us think of equity as the core value of all education. That if you don't offer, if it's not a neighborhood school and you don't offer busing, it excludes so many families. At my school, we won't have a meeting if we don't offer childcare and busing to all of our families. So I just educator to educator. On a core value, I think the government doesn't provide funding for that, but you've talked about a lot of philanthropists that you work with. Maybe up to this, if you're really going to equally serve all of the kids of Richmond, you have to offer busing. Because and I know it's money, but you clearly can make money. So on a really level, even if no other charter school do it, if you don't offer busing, it's not including all of the students. Just because your families can drive, they're probably making huge sacrifices to do that. So offer busing. If you're not a neighborhood school, you have to offer busing.
I have a couple of questions to follow up. So I'm wondering, why does the sale have to precede any traffic or environmental impact statements or investigation? My other question is, how can you say that this isn't going to affect the Mira Vista and Riverside community when you're overlapping the same grades? And also, how can you say that you are a public school that is open to all the students and everyone in the community when you require online applications and there's a huge percentage of this population that doesn't have internet access?
To be clear, we do not require online access. We offer it, and many of our parents choose to fill in an application on paper, which they're welcome to do as well. And I'm sorry, what were your other two questions?
How can you say that this isn't going to affect the local community when you're overlapping, the local schools, when you're overlapping on the same grades? And also, why does the sale have to precede any traffic or environmental evaluations?
Sure. Thank you for that. So you're asking, how can we say that opening up another K-8 a mile from here won't affect this school, or less than a mile, 3/4 of a mile? So to be honest, we're baffled by this. You know, we are full and have a waiting list on 36 portables in the Kennedy campus, and virtually all of our families have expressed the intent to come up to this campus. And you guys are full, and you obviously have a very strong community, so I'm not sure why anyone would leave. So it seems to me there's plenty of demand for your school and plenty of demand for our school, and I don't see why they can't coexist and thrive together. And then I guess you were asking, why can't we do traffic studies prior to a sale? Well, you know, we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies, and I really can't see that it's not a violation of my responsibility to be a good steward of the philanthropy or the state funds we get to spend that money if we don't know we have a transaction. You know, every real estate developer in the world would lock up a property before spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
My name is Charles Smith. I'm a Richmond resident. I've lived in Richmond for 43 years and raised a family here. Richmond is a struggling blue-collar community. It has a few rich people, but it has an awful lot of hard-working, genuine working-class people. When I say struggling, we were damn near in bankruptcy in 2004, and we pulled ourselves out of it. And then, in 2008, the stock market crashed, and it decimated the housing in the city of Richmond. People lost their homes. People had their homes devalued. And the tax rate went down. So the quality of life in Richmond went down the drain with it. The budget is coming up in another month for the city of Richmond. And we're between $8 and $11 million in the red, with no way to get that money that we can see. Richmond is on the brink of bankruptcy. And if not this year, next year it'll probably be worse. I think that what Wall Street did to this nation, if I were you, I'd be ashamed to be here.
Exactly.
And instead of standing there talking about how you want to help us, if the only reason you came down here to help us is because you think your soul is destined for hell. Now I'm going to tell you, everybody in the city of Richmond understands our financial situation, and it is not pretty. And it's no secret as to why that happened. We saw our neighbors' houses go. We saw our neighbors go. We've been struggling to get on top, and we're not getting back. And then you, a graduate of Goldman Sachs, one of the worst companies on Wall Street, comes to our town because you want to help us? And you expect us to believe you? You're not Mother Teresa. You don't even look like her. And I don't trust you, and I don't think very many people in this room trust you. For good reason.
My name's Rachel McLaughlin. I'm a Mira Vista teacher. I'm a Mira Vista parent, and I'm a Mira Vista grad. I was here in 1980, and I went and saw a lot of things in the world. I came back because this is a very special place to be. As you can see, we have a strong community here. I have a lot of concerns about this project, but the one that really comes to the top of my mind is about the scale. Yes, at one time it held 800, 1,200, but and also I wanted to clarify, at the beginning of this meeting, it sounded like the approval number was somewhere around 800, but can you clarify, are you approved to 1,200? And if so, I really ask you to consider what 1,200 students on a K-8 level looks like. That's unprecedented in this area to have an elementary school, over 1,000 students. It's not the same as middle school students in the same numbers. We work with our K-8 every day, and we see that getting the little ones from the cars into their classrooms, all that is a big deal. And so as we're contemplating sharing our roads and our sidewalks and our neighborhood, fine, but 1,200 is a huge number, and I feel it is an unsafe number when you really think about it. So I know you're saying you're at the early stages, but I would implore you to really consider what 1,200 young students look like. And so please don't say we haven't gotten that far in the process. Please answer, how do you really think that 1,200, excuse me, I'm emotional because we love our school and we want to keep our neighborhood safe, and if we're going to be sharing it, we want to make sure it's safe, both for your caliber students and our Mira Vista students together.
Look, you asked us not to say we're early in the process, but we are. I don't know what else to say, but I will say again, well, I'll say two things. First of all, we live this every day already. So we do understand what you're saying about pick up and drop off of the young kids. No, I'm just saying, like, it's not like we're sitting in some office in the sky dreaming up schools. We have a school. We have 600 kids. We know exactly what drop off and pick up and transitions between classes at K all the way up. So we totally understand that. And all we can say at this point is that yes, we understand. Yes, we're considering that. And yes, it will be a process that we're just at the beginning of. And when you said how big are we now, we are 810 students right now.
Okay, so can I just do one follow-up then? So if you are serving a population from throughout Richmond and surrounding cities, and you want to serve families that are feeling underserved at this time, is it fair to say they're going to be coming a long distance and they're going to be coming through our roads? It's going to be a burden on those families to travel so far from what would have been their neighborhood schools.
But that implies that all of our kids happen to live right around the corner from us now. They already come from all over the town. A lot of them come from here and go down there. So I agree it's challenging, but they want to come to our school. They see a lot of value in the education that we offer. And, that's all I can say. I don't know what else I can say about that. But I will say again, back to what I said before, we are not going to decide how many students can fit on this campus. That is something that's going to be a process that goes with the county planning department, with neighborhood feedback. Okay.
Good evening, my name is Peter Chow. As a concerned citizen, I'm deeply concerned about the encroachment of charter schools into our neighborhood schools. Tonight, the district offered us an explanation for the sale of Adams Middle School as being a good value. So in addition to the $60,000 that you will sell the Adams Middle School site, so what I'm hearing is that Caliber Charter School is supposed to surrender or waive their Proposition 39 right. But in my mind, there's been an instance in the past when charter schools have waived their rights, such as the parcel tax, only to find a third party who asserted that the waiver was no good. So is Caliber Charter School prepared to fully surrender their Proposition 39 right and offensively block any type of third party from asserting the right independent of Caliber?
I don't really understand your question, but I assume the district is well represented in the
Well, I'd be happy to clarify. So in the parcel tax that was passed in 2012, not one word in that parcel tax measure mentioned charter schools. Yet the California Charter School Association filed a lawsuit asserting a constitutional right based on equal protection claims to the portion of the parcel tax. They claimed through these parents that the waiver that the charter schools signed, waiving their rights to the parcel tax, was no good. This lawsuit was settled by the district and the California Charter School Association. So I'm glad, Mr. Beller, that you are a history major like myself, because I looked to the past in order to determine what the future outcome would be. So my question is Caliber Charter School prepared to fully surrender their Proposition 39 right to reasonably equivalent facilities and offensively block any type of third party from asserting that right on behalf of Caliber? Was that question clear enough?
I got the question. So the answer to that is we don't have a finalized agreement yet, but I would expect that any finalized agreement that I would negotiate would have a full waiver along with the defense and indemnity provision, okay? And so that would protect against the district against lawsuits being filed by the Charter Schools Association or Caliber on any type of this transaction.
And will
I'd
you
further
release?
say, Mr. Chow, you claim to be a progressive, but I think that you want to deny children or parents the right to choose where they go to school. And I would further say, with respect to the parcel tax,
I actually have.
The parcel tax was for all children. The district decided to deny access to the parcel tax funds to charter school children. We don't really understand why our children who attend public schools and live in the district shouldn't get equal access to those funds.
We have 5 minutes left. If you don't get your questions answered, try to get through. But there will be cards.
I don't think I never said anything about parents not being able to choose. In fact, my mom chose to come here to this state in order to enroll me in the public education system. I'm a proud product of this school district, and I believe that parents do have a choice. My question was very simple, because in May 12th of 2015, you submitted a proposal to this school district in which you wanted to lease the Adams Middle School site for 90 or 99 years for $15 a year, and then all of a sudden the Adams Middle School site disappeared into closed session only because I found out only because 5,000 Patterson Circle was listed under closed session. So all I'm trying to do tonight is try to figure out what the details of this deal is, because it's been conducted in closed session. So all I'm here is just trying to get some information on behalf of the public.
And that's why the school board should be held accountable for that closed door meeting.
Right, exactly.
You want us to be happy about it? You want us to be happy? Come on, I'm not going.
Hi, my name is Liz Sanders.
Which you know we have to fight? I'm sure it matters. He called him a name.
I was actually waiting because I think his anger is very warranted. and I think it's really understandable. I think there's been a lot of personal stuff going back and forth tonight. I'm going to go ahead and ask my question now, but that's why I was waiting for him. Because I do think that there has been some hurt that's been brought up in this room, and that needs to be valued and recognized as you come into someone else's community. I grew up in this community within walking distance of this school my entire childhood. I went to West County Public Schools, graduated from them, went to Stanford, went to Columbia, chose to move back to teach in West County schools because this community made me fall in love with the idea of a community school, of the idea of public education that can be served for all children. So I have two questions tonight, and I'm really hoping that I can get specific answers because with all due respect, your answers have felt a little bit evasive and euphemistic, and I'm hoping we can get some transparency here. One has to do with the timeline and with the exact way that we came up with this number that is now this potential sale of Adams School. So if we're going to be real about this timeline, because there's been a lot of conversation about this being the beginning of a discussion or the beginning of a conversation. Caliber came to the facilities subcommittee to talk about the Adams School site in May 2015. So it's been a full year that this conversation has been going on. And there have obviously been some kind of negotiations, some kind of discussions, or you wouldn't be able to get to that number of 60,000. And I would like some specifics about how you came up with that, because I know and I understand the legal argument for why the district can't sell Adams at fair market value. But unless I'm really confused about the Bay Area real estate market right now, there's a huge chasm between $60,000 and fair market value for that site. And my second question, if you answer really quickly, if I can give it, my second question has to do with the sense of being for all students. Because earlier in the beginning presentation, you mentioned a couple times that Caliber is just not for everybody. And there are different mechanisms by which schools determine their target population, right? There's admissions, so we understand that there's an admissions lottery. There's also expulsion. So if we're going to be really real about who attends Caliber, especially if all of them apparently can drive to school, who is your target population? And who, therefore, in our community is not for your school?
So in answer to the second question, we think everyone is for our school. Some people choose not to stay there. And just like we accept anyone who wants to come, we can't force anyone to stay. So speak to expulsions.
I think as far as our model, there are some students who learn well when they are in a small group, and some who prefer to be working with a partner, and some who prefer to be on a computer, and some really love coding, and some really don't like coding, and some love our CrossFit class, and some want traditional PE. So when we speak about Caliber not necessarily being for everyone, it's really about the best fit for your student and the way that they learn, and not about saying that there is a demographic or a population of students who don't fit with us. We are open to any and all students who want to be there, and some who come to our school.
Specify if they can drive there, if they can get there.
Right, and to clarify your point from earlier, that there are several parents who have approached me about needing.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I saw from here on out in every meeting, you never say everybody is included.
Yeah.
Everybody's not welcome unless they can drive. You've got to type that.
There are systematic barriers, right? I think that's what we're trying to bring up. We understand that there aren't things that you're saying, like we don't take this kid or we don't take that kid nominally, but it's pretty apparent in our community that your schools siphon out certain students and take others.
So do you want me to answer your first question, or do you want me to address that? I mean, I would say that the district and we are all operating in a money-constrained environment. We all wish we had more resources. We all wish we could pay our teachers better. We all wish we could have 2 teachers in every classroom. We're operating on the same budget as you guys are, and we are as constrained as you guys are. So that's frustrating. In return, when there's a negotiation, I think both sides have a perspective. I can just give you my perspective. The district has a legal obligation to provide us with a facility that's reasonably equivalent to every other child in the district. So we would like that. We don't really want our kids in 16 portables or 36 portables on asphalt. We would like them to have a multi-purpose room. Please let me finish. But just like everyone else. In order to make the transaction work, we were able to access some state funds that the district is unable to access. So we're going to put $20 million